they taught you to hate it. That plant in the corner of your yard, the one your father sprayed, the one your neighbor cursed, the one the hardware store sold you poison to kill. It fed empires. For 1,000 years, peasants survived winters on it. Kings taxed it. Monks cultivated it in monastery gardens while Rome burned. Then someone decided you should forget. Not because it was useless, because it was free. Today, we open the archive on 6 plants they erased from your memory, and why they needed you to believe they were worthless. The archive opens on a photograph, a victory garden in Ohio. In the foreground, a woman kneels. Her hands are dark with soil. Behind her, rows of vegetables stretch toward a wooden fence. But look closer. Between the tomatoes and the beans. Plants you wouldn't recognize. Plants your grandmother knew by name. Plants that kept her family alive when the grocery stores had nothing. They are still there, waiting. They remember, even if we forgot. My grandmother never threw anything away. Not fabric, not buttons, not food. She grew up during the war. She knew what it meant to be hungry. Truly hungry. The kind of hungry where you dream about bread. She kept plants in her garden that her neighbors called weeds. Peasant food, they said. Depression food. She just smiled. She knew something they had forgotten. These weren't weeds. They were insurance. They were the difference between survival and starvation. They were the plants that empires were built on, before someone decided you should buy your food instead of grow it. She planted them anyway, every year, even when her children told her it was old-fashioned, even when they laughed. She knew the laughter wouldn't last. Hunger always comes back. Here is what they don't want you to understand. The modern lawn, that perfect green carpet your neighbors judge you by, it was invented. Not by gardeners, not by farmers, by salesmen. In the decades after World War II, something shifted. The chemical companies that had manufactured weapons needed new markets. The factories that produced explosives needed new products. They found them in your yard. The herbicide industry today is worth over $40 billion. $40 billion. Every year. They didn't build that empire by helping you grow food. They built it by teaching you to kill it. Think about it. Every plant in this video, every single one, was once a staple crop. Grown intentionally, harvested carefully, passed down through generations. Then someone put a new label on it. Weed. A weed is not a botanical category. It's a marketing decision. They invented a problem to sell you the solution. And it worked. For 70 years, you've been paying to destroy your own food supply, spraying poison on medicine, ripping out nutrition, replacing abundance with grass. Grass you can't eat. Grass that feeds nothing. But here's what they didn't count on. The archive never forgets. And neither do we. Let's begin with the parsnip. You might know it. That pale root vegetable hiding in the corner of the grocery store next to the turnips nobody buys. But you don't know what it was. For over 1,000 years, the parsnip was the sweetener of Europe. Before sugar cane arrived from the tropics. Before beet sugar. Before high fructose corn syrup. There was parsnip. Monasteries kept it in their gardens specifically for this purpose. When the poor came hungry to the gates, monks gave them parsnip from the food banks. 100 calories per cup, fiber, vitamin C, potassium. But here's the secret the medieval cooks knew. Parsnip gets sweeter after frost. The cold converts its starches to sugar. The longer it stays in frozen ground, the sweeter it becomes. While other crops died, the parsnip thrived. It was the vegetable of survival. the food that waited underground while winter raged above. And when spring came, it was still there, sweeter than before. They called it peasant food. It outlasted peasants and kings alike. Now let's talk about bread. Not the bread you know, not that soft white substance that molds in 3 days and tastes like nothing. Real bread. For most of human civilization, one grain dominated. 10,000 years of cultivation. From the first farms of the Fertile Crescent to the fields of medieval Europe. Emmer wheat. You've probably never heard of it. That's by design. Emmer has 30% more protein than modern wheat. It contains zinc, iron, and magnesium in quantities that would embarrass the supplements you buy in plastic bottles. It's what the Roman legions marched on. What the Egyptians stored in pyramids. What fed the builders of cathedrals. In medieval Europe, 70% of calories came from bread. Not a side dish. Not an accompaniment. Bread was life. When bread prices rose, riots followed. Governments fell. The French Revolution was sparked partly by the price of a loaf. Emmer was replaced because it was harder to process. The hulls don't separate as easily. Modern mills didn't like it, so they bred it out. They chose efficiency over nutrition, profit over protein. But Emmer survived. It grows wild still, in places they forgot to spray. Waiting to be remembered. Here is a number that should anger you. 26%. That's the protein content of fava beans. 26%. Higher than most meat. For centuries, the fava bean was the protein source of the poor. When meat was for lords and fish was for Fridays, peasants had favas. 1,500 pounds per acre, in poor soil, with no fertilizer. Because fava beans don't need fertilizer, they make their own. Nitrogen fixation. The roots pull nitrogen from the air and store it in the soil. Plant favas 1 year, and the next crop grows stronger. The church knew this. During Lent, when meat was forbidden, favas became the sacred protein. Monastery gardens cultivated them not just for food, but for the soil itself. Now, I need to tell you something important. Some people cannot eat fava beans. There's a genetic condition called G6PD deficiency, sometimes called favism. It's most common in Mediterranean and African populations. For these individuals, eating favas can cause serious illness. If you've never eaten fava beans before, start small. If anyone in your family has had reactions to them, consult a doctor first. This is the difference between the archive and the internet. We tell you the truth, all of it. The fava bean is powerful, but power demands respect. Let me ask you a question. What if you could plant something today and harvest complete protein in 10 weeks? Not 12 months, not next year, 10 weeks. Buckwheat is not actually wheat. It's not even a grain. It's related to rhubarb, but it contains all 8 essential amino acids. Complete protein from a plant that grows in soil so poor that nothing else will touch it. 10 to 12 weeks from seed to harvest. Medieval farmers used buckwheat as a rescue crop. When the spring planting failed, when frost killed the wheat, when disaster struck, they planted buckwheat. By autumn, they had food. It doesn't deplete the soil, it improves it. The roots break up compacted earth. The flowers feed bees. The stems can be plowed under as fertilizer. Your great-grandmother probably ate buckwheat pancakes. In Russia, they call it kasha. In Japan, it's soba noodles. Somewhere along the way, we decided it was old-fashioned. We replaced complete protein with, what exactly? Protein bars in plastic wrappers? The archive remembers what we traded away. Now I want to tell you about the plant that refuses to die. Good King Henry. You've never heard of it. Almost no one has. Even most gardeners don't know it exists. But for centuries, it grew beside every cottage in Europe. The Germans called it Guter Heinrich. Not after a king, after the elf who lived by the back door, the helpful spirit who asked for nothing and gave everything. Good King Henry is a perennial. You plant it once. It comes back for 50 years. 50 years or more. The leaves are edible, spinach-like, vitamin A, vitamin C, iron, calcium, potassium. The shoots are edible, like asparagus. The seeds are edible, ground into flour. It survives frost. It survives drought. It survives neglect. It was the ultimate peasant plant. No replanting, no buying seeds every year, no dependence on anyone. Maybe that's why they erased it. A plant you only buy once is a plant that makes no profit. Good King Henry is still out there, waiting at the edges of old gardens, growing in places where people forgot to look. It never stopped. We just stopped paying attention. Let's end with a question that might shock you. How much beer did a medieval peasant drink? 1 to 5 liters per day. Not because they were alcoholics, because water would kill you. Before water treatment, before sanitation, before germ theory, water was dangerous. People died from drinking it. Diseases spread through wells and streams. But beer was safe. The brewing process killed the pathogens. The alcohol preserved it. Beer was medicine. Beer was nutrition. Beer was survival. And the foundation of beer was barley. 1,650 calories per pound, 50 grams of protein, more fiber than any modern cereal. 30% of the barley harvest went directly to brewing. Monasteries ran breweries. Every village had an alehouse. And here's something history almost forgot. The brewers were women. Alewives. That was the name, before brewing became industrialized, before corporations took over. Brewing was women's work, passed from mother to daughter. The pointed hat, the cauldron, the broomstick outside the door to signal fresh batch available. Sound familiar? The image of the witch was the image of the alewife. When corporations wanted the brewing industry, they started a campaign. They demonized the competition. They turned providers into villains. History has a dark sense of humor. Barley still grows. Alewives are still remembered. The archive keeps their memory, even when others tried to burn it. Before you go to your garden, there are 3 things you must know. Rule 1. Identification must be certain. These plants have lookalikes, poisonous lookalikes. Never harvest anything unless you are absolutely sure what it is. Use multiple identification guides. When in doubt, don't eat it. Rule 2. Start from clean sources. Don't forage from roadsides. Don't harvest from sprayed areas. Don't dig up plants from contaminated soil. Start with seeds from reputable suppliers. Grow your own in clean ground. Rule 3. Introduce slowly. Your body isn't used to these foods. Your gut bacteria need time to adjust. Eat small amounts first. Watch for reactions. Respect the power of what you're putting into your body. The archive preserves knowledge, but wisdom means using it carefully. 6 plants, 6 survivors. They fed your ancestors through famine and war, through empires rising and falling, through plagues that emptied villages and winters that froze rivers solid. They asked for nothing. No fertilizer, no pesticides, no poison, just a place to grow. And in return, they gave everything. Protein, vitamins, medicine, survival. Someone wanted you to forget them. Someone profits when you spray them. Someone benefits when you buy your food in plastic packages instead of growing it in free soil. But you're still here, and so are they. Every time you plant a forgotten seed, you choose memory over forgetting. Every time you refuse the poison, you choose life over profit. Every time you teach your children what grew before, you become a link in a chain that stretches back 10,000 years. You are not just a gardener. You are a keeper. A keeper of seeds. A keeper of stories. A keeper of the knowledge they tried to erase. This video has been an act of remembering. Will you remember with us? The archive never closes on those who remember.